about it. So Julio Foolio trial part 1 of 5 really started today, or it started yesterday. And the initial beginning of this trial, we're going to start with Alicia Andrews. You're probably wondering who Alicia Andrews is. It is alleged that she is the one who gave the guy who killed Julio Foolio the mark. She was around Julio Foolio on his birthday when he was murdered. She was giving information to the other guys who came and eventually shot him up and letting him know where he was at, what he was doing, where they were going. And now she is on trial as a co-conspirator to this murder. She didn't pull the trigger, but she was clearly, as the defense is saying, or as the prosecution is saying, involved in this. So I'll give you guys a little bit of a background here from Fox 13, and then we'll get into opening statements from this proceeding. All right, check this out.
This Monday, right now at 6, the trial for the first of 5 suspects in the Julio Foolio murder trial in Tampa, now underway today. Alicia Andrews is accused of helping stalk and track the rapper last year in what authorities called an ambush-style shooting. Jury selection in her case began this morning, and Fox 13's Aaron Mesmer has been covering this for us. Joins us now live in our newsroom. Hi there, Aaron. I know you sat down with Andrews' attorneys prior to the trial here. What did they tell you?
Mark, they say Andrews has been honest with investigators all along. She admits she was with the group of suspects, but her attorneys say she had no part in the murder and was just in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Today,
I don't know about that.
A jury in a criminal case.
Alicia Andrews is the first of 5 suspects to go to trial who are all charged in connection with the murder of Charles Jones, a Jacksonville rapper known as Julio Foolio.
Charles Jones was shot and killed while he was seated in his car.
The judge briefed potential jurors on the basic facts of the case. Jones was in Tampa to celebrate his birthday last year. Security video shows a group of shooters opening fire on Jones's car outside a hotel near USF. Rashad Murphy, Isaiah Chance, Sean Gathright, and Andrews are accused of making the trip from Jacksonville to Tampa to kill Jones in what investigators described as an ongoing gang war.
That perception is not reality.
Andrews' attorneys recently sat down with Fox 13 to explain why they believe she's innocent.
She was here for a trip with her boyfriend. That's it and that's all, and found herself caught up in a mix of stuff that she was unaware about completely.
That's what she told detectives who didn't believe her.
About that.
They say she and her boyfriend, Isaiah Chance, acted as lookouts the night of the murder. The defense says Andrews had no idea what was about to happen.
Right, this is a case where the state tries to put her in a box and say that she is the girlfriend of one of the individuals involved and that she would do anything that this guy tells her to do because she's so in love with him.
They just leaped.
Yeah, no, we're not buying that. So again, it seems like the defense is saying they've got the ClassE. We're going to rename this. They've got the ClassE argument saying, listen, she was there. Yes, she told him what was happening. Yes, she told him where Julio was going to be. Right. But she didn't pull the trigger, and she only did it because she loved her boyfriend and because she was worried about what she was going to do to him. How many times are we going to see this BS defense? I can't take it, man.
Since he was there, she must know. And, it's just a faulty kind of logic.
All 5 suspects are charged with first-degree murder, but Andrews is the only one not facing the death penalty. Her lawyers say she's been honest from day one, and they think jurors will believe her.
So she has no problem telling them everything that she knows, and she did, and believing that truth will, proverbially set her free.
And the judge told jurors this trial could last up to 2 weeks, Mark.
All right, Aaron Mesmer watching it closely for us. Aaron, thanks.
Yeah, shout out to Aaron. Listen, how many murderers have you seen? They were like, hey, yeah, I did it. You want my manifesto? Guys, this is how I do it. I swear about the knife. This is how many times I followed them. This is why I waited. I saw the dog. I was like, yeah, the dog's there. I'm going to wait. So I went back the next day, and then I committed the crime, and now I'm here. I'm turning myself in. You guys going to show me some mercy? Crazy enough, that actually does work sometimes, even in the most heinous of crimes. So we'll see what the jury decides here. We're going to see the evidence play out. Let's go ahead and get into opening statements. Check it out.
Just a couple of things before we get going. It is my understanding there were media reports about this case in the news the past 24 hours. So did any of you watch, read, listen to any news accounts related to this case? Did any of you do any independent research or investigation on your own about the case?
Of course not.
Did you talk to anybody about the case? Okay, very good. All right, and just for scheduling purposes, I know we've got a juror that needs to be in a wedding or practice for a wedding at 2 o'clock on Friday, so we will break no later than noon on Friday. Just so you all know, the rest of the jury knows. Friday afternoon you'll have free. All right? Okay, with that, State, do you wish to make an opening statement?
We do, Your Honor.
Okay, very good. You may proceed.
May it please the court?
Yep.
Counsel.
Here we go. Prosecution's ready to go. Load them up.
He didn't know, because there was no way he could know, that his time here was limited. Very limited.
Rest in peace,
that
Charles.
He was, in fact, breathing his last breaths here on Earth.
On his
Living
birthday.
the last moments of his just barely 27 years of life here on this planet. He didn't know, as he was out with friends celebrating his birthday, that he was being watched, that he was being followed. He was being stalked. Stalked and observed while he was celebrating. Stalked and observed by a group of killers, a group of conspirators who were now executing a very premeditated plot that had been hatched and birthed days before. A plot that had been hatched between them with every single one of their collective evil intentions directed into one common purpose, one common goal: the premeditated murder of Charles Jones. This group's collective hatred and animosity, which drove the conspiracy that existed between them, this evil and despicably wicked conspiracy.
Can I interrupt for a second? The hatred and animosity. We got to talk about that for a second. Was it deserved? In my opinion, yes. I don't think anybody should hate. But if you do some research into how Julio Foolio was moving and some of the things he was doing, recording music videos near his ops' graves, dancing on graves, he was playing stupid games. Unfortunately, he got a stupid, very, very stupid prize. His last prize. Dang.
He didn't know that now all of their planning, all of their surveillance, all of their advanced coordination was now coming to fruition. Coming into fruition in such a precise way that he only saw his killers for mere seconds as they rapidly closed in on him, dressed from head to toe in all black, like ninjas coming out of the dark. Disguises that included balaclavas and ski masks. Disguises that these conspirators had decided well before this moment that they were going to wear, to use to hide their identities from the ever-present and ubiquitous cameras that permeate our culture. As Charles Jones sat there in the front passenger seat of his Dodge Charger, their plan came perfectly together. He was now the perfect target, caught completely, entirely off guard, completely blindsided. As these gunmen appeared, seemingly, you will see in this evidence, out of nowhere. A perfectly planned ambush, and there's no other way to say it. The evidence will show you clearly this was an ambush, a designed ambush, one that they had carefully planned and now were orchestrating. Unable to run, unable to dive or even duck, basically caged in the front seat of his car. He was basically a sitting duck. And these killers, they didn't hesitate, not for 1 second and not for one moment. They moved rapidly into their pre-planned positions, into their firing locations. And then they immediately unleashed a hellish onslaught, affecting a precisely coordinated violence of action, sending a barrage, a wall of hot lead, crashing into the only barriers between Charles Jones living and Charles Jones dying. Those barriers, the automotive glass, the sheet metal of the front of his Dodge Charger, which were absolutely no match for the high-powered 5.56 and 300 blackout caliber rifle rounds, which were now traveling at him, directed at him at thousands of feet per second, each one of them carrying over 1,200 foot-pounds of energy, directed specifically at Charles Jones. A Glock 9mm handgun was being utilized by one of these conspirators, a handgun that wasn't just a semi-automatic handgun. It had been converted to a fully automatic hand cannon, and now it was running wide open, dumping all 30 rounds of its magazine through the front end and the windshield of that Dodge Charger. All of that gunfire filling the dark, early morning hours with booming concussions and bright, flashing muzzle flashes as these high-pressured and high-powered rounds flooded the atmosphere in front of that Dodge Charger. Charles Jones. You've heard his name in the indictment. That's his face.
Yo, look at that, man. God lit up. On his birthday. It doesn't even look real. It looks like a movie. I don't know how this guy didn't get hit. They were basically shooting at each other. Wow.
Just a few seconds of the mountain of evidence that you will see in this case of what happened that night. Evidence that will show you clearly that these co-conspirators hatched this murderous plot, not minutes, not hours, but days before this. Formulating in their hearts and minds this agreed upon, collective, and confederated plan with one common agreed upon goal: death, violence, and murder. A conspiracy motivated and hatched days before, hundreds of miles away from Tampa. A conspiracy that would span through those days and over 500 miles of travel. Reservations were made, uniforms, disguises obtained and selected. Gear was obtained, weapons selected, weapons loaded, and weapons modified and made ready. Transportation was obtained, vehicles with specific purposes, and a plot that required advanced planning and logistics to include housing, communications, and transport would materialize and become reality. A criminal, murderous operation. These co-conspirators leaving their homes in the northeast corner of this state, traveling here, traveling to their target. Conspiring to murder Charles Jones, not in his home, not in Jacksonville, not on his home territory, not at his residence, but here in Tampa, while he was on a birthday trip, while his guard was down. And you will see in this evidence the clock-like precision of these co-conspirators, how they worked together as a team in this team effort.
Dang.
Principles. This is a law that you heard a little bit about. You'll be instructed on it at the end of this case after the evidence is given to you by the Honorable Judge Sisko. She will instruct you on the law of principles as well as the law on murder and all the other laws that you will need to render your verdict in this case. The law of principles: if a defendant helps another person to commit or attempt to commit a crime, That defendant is a principal and must be treated as if they had done all the things that the other person or persons did, if we prove this beyond a reasonable doubt that they first.
And this is the getaway driver, right? This is the getaway driver principle. You drive them up to the bank, they rob the bank, a couple people get deleted, you drive them away, you're just as guilty as if you were to pull the trigger. Seeing it too many times.
Intended that the crime occur and did some act or said something, anything, that was intended to and that did incite their co-defendants to commit this murder, cause them to, simply encourage them to, assist them or advise other persons to actually commit that crime. Now, incite, cause, encourage, assist, or advise the other person to actually commit the crime. For first-degree premeditated murder, we must prove that this defendant intended that Charles Jones be killed. It is not necessary for the principal to know every detail of how a first-degree murder will be committed as long as they intend that it occur.
Interesting.
And they did some act or said something that was intended to help or did help the murder to occur. But almost more importantly, the principal, the defendant, does not have to be present when the crime is committed or attempted to be committed. But in this case, folks, you will hear that this defendant, Alicia Andrews, was right there, driving right next to that Dodge Charger in the seconds before this murder happened.
And was her boyfriend at the party? I don't think he was.
If the defendant is found by you to be a principal, then she is legally responsible and accountable for everything that her co-conspirators, her co-defendants did. Alicia Andrews.
Careful who your friends are.
These are her co-conspirators. I don't know if this laser is going to work, if you can see. In the upper left-hand corner, that's Rashad Murphy. Lower left, Davion Murphy. Sean Gaithright is in the upper right. And in the lower right is her boyfriend at the time, Isaiah Chance. These were the five
that's her baby daddy.
Conspirators. This was the assault team that took out Charles Jones.
Alicia did have a baby while in prison, too, in the last couple of months. I wonder if that's his kid.
That took his life, that snatched it from him in the early morning hours of June 23rd. Isaiah Chance, Sean Gaithright, Rashad Murphy, Davion Murphy. To understand the murderous intent that existed amongst them, and to understand this conspiracy that dwelled in all of their minds and hearts, we have to go back and look at the lives and associations of Charles Jones and these defendants. What did Charles Jones do to these defendants that was so bad that would cause them to confederate, to conspire, engage in this coordinated planned attack? Charles Jones belonged to and was affiliated with a group known as 6 Block. He was a member of that organization. It exists in Jacksonville. It's known as 6 Block, and it is a street gang.
And it's everywhere.
It consists of several members. 2 other gangs in Jacksonville, ATK and 1200, were affiliated gangs.
We've heard of ATK
They despise
before.
6 Block.
We talked about
They
it.
detest them. They abhor them. And the level of hate between these groups is a mutual hatred.
Y'all remember
The evidence
Queso?
will show that these gangs have been at war for several years. And when I say war, the evidence will show you this is a war going on in the streets of Jacksonville. The hatred and the dripping animosity of these defendants towards Charles Jones, it ran deep. And the evidence will show you that. In fact, you will hear that in October of 2023, just 9 months before this, before the murder of Charles Jones, he had left his residence in Jacksonville in that same black Charger about 6 o'clock in the morning. He came to a stop sign in his neighborhood, just a few blocks from his house, when a shooter with a high-powered rifle opened fire on his car, striking his car several times and striking him in his lower leg, spraying bullets all over that neighborhood. Mr. Jones at that time was able to drive himself to a local hospital, receive treatment, and be released. That bullet, or fragment of bullet, remained in his leg until it was removed by the medical examiner who conducted the autopsy on his body here in Tampa after his murder.
Mm-hmm. He had been shot before.
Earlier that same morning, a member of ATK, a man by the name of Tilly, was shot and killed at a high school football game. This shooting of Charles Jones was clearly retaliation, but Charles Jones was not the shooter of Tilly. But that didn't matter. So why was he targeted? You won't hear any evidence to suggest that he had anything to do with that shooting. He was affiliated with 6 Block. And you're going to hear in the evidence that he wasn't just a member of 6 Block, he was a notorious member of 6 Block. Probably the most well-known member of that gang. In fact, he was the public face of 6 Block. The spokesperson, basically. He posted on social media, but most notoriously and notably, he wasn't just a spokesperson for 6 Block, he was a certified celebrity. Charles Jones had millions of followers on social media, if not tens of millions of followers, because he engaged in an activity that you heard a little bit about yesterday from one of your fellow jurors, and he was spot on. That's exactly what the evidence is going to show you in this case. This long-standing pattern of what is called drill rap. And it is an activity that Charles Jones embraced and that he engaged in under the name Julio Foolio, which was in fact his street name, Foolio. Julio Foolio. In this type of rap music, it's not just rap, it's disrespect. It's making fun of and disparaging not only ATK and 1200, the opposing gangs, but disparaging their members by name. Disparaging, and probably most incendiary you will find in the evidence, bragging about the death or deaths of other ATK 1200 members who have been murdered. As I said earlier, make no doubt about it, this is a gang war. Mr. Jones, you will see in the evidence, not only produced this music, he produced music videos. Videos where he would travel to the gravesides of these individuals, or a graveside that was used in lieu of their graveside, and do things during the video like lay on their graves and sing around their graves and use sarcastic lyrics in his songs, pour champagne on their graves, rubbing it in the faces of ATK and 1200. And ATK and 1200 were no better. They did the same thing.
But
you're going to see videos from members of that gang. One young man in particular, Kenyatta Bullard, known on the streets as Young and Ace, who produced not only songs about 6 Block members who had been murdered, and the days after the murder of Charles Jones, he produced a song just within almost 48 hours and put it up, talking about the murder of Charles Jones, the specific facts of it. This created in those 5 individuals, in their minds and in their hearts, a vendetta. This was revenge. Because he ridiculed them, and he ridiculed their gang, which was their family. He ridiculed their friends, which were their family members. They were close, deep running bonds of loyalty in this organization. Because they have each other and they defend each other. They defend not only each other, but they defend each other's honors. And they defend their affiliations.
They had a motive.
This
That's for
is
sure.
the murder scene. Let me see if this will work. Home to Suites, McKinley, Fowler, USF is directly across the street. The USF campus lays literally feet away from this hotel complex. Over here you can see it's a Holiday Inn. This is the portico right here. where the shooting happens. What you will see in this evidence is that these shooters arrive here, and they come in and they go around the north side of that complex as Mr. Jones is sitting here at the portico with two other cars full of his friends and party goers, people celebrating. His girlfriend was in the other car. He was a passenger. His friend Xavier Edwards was driving. His longtime friend Gino Norris was in the back seat. They pull in. The shooters come in this way. They go around. They come down here, and they park in this area here.
Nasty work.
And then they act on foot, and they come around here, surprising Mr. Jones. You saw Mr. Jones' car try to evade the shooting and go this direction. He goes straight up here. There is no road here, but they make a road. And they're desperate efforts to get away. They go right past this dumpster, and the Charger ends up here.
Goodness gracious.
This is Mr. Jones arriving. He's been out celebrating, you'll find in the evidence. That is Mr. Jones with that open passenger door. The vapor you're seeing is coming out of the hotel. That's some type of a dryer vent. Mr. Jones in the red stocking cap pulling up his shorts. He walks in the hotel. As you can see on the timestamp, which is slightly off by a few minutes, this is about 4:30 in the morning. They had been out through the night. They had gone to a couple of clubs. Mr. Jones appeared at one club and performed, and then he went to an after party at another club. He had attempted to make a reservation here, but because they appeared so late, it had been given away. You'll see him come back and get into his car.
Jeez.
Video slightly sped up here.
That's funny.
That car entering right there, that's the assault team. And as I said, they go northbound around the north side. They avoid driving near this entourage, Mr. Jones and his friends. This Nissan Altima that's pulling up is part of the entourage that was with Mr. Jones.
Yep, and they're going to make sure they don't
Driver
get out.
Taylor McRae is a friend of his. You will see his girlfriend get out. And they go inside of the lobby to use the restroom. So Taifa and his girlfriend, Aaliyah Albritton, they walk in to the lobby, and they're actually inside there in the bathroom when the shooting happens. Now, you probably didn't see it, but when Taifa got out of the driver's seat of that Nissan Altima, Camilla Bentley slid right in behind him. That's another friend of Mr. Jones and friends with these folks. She's sitting in that car at the time of the shooting. She takes her round through the arm.
Dang, that's crazy.
This car driving by,
she's lucky
that
she
is
only
the
got shot in the
spotter
arm.
car. That is the surveillance and reconnaissance vehicle. This is just before the shooting happens. And you're going to see that car come right back by.
They said, hey, y'all ready?
It goes down, does a three-point U-turn, and comes back. And now we're mere seconds away from the attack on the Charger, on the attack on Mr. Jones. You'll see the Chevy Cruze go southbound on McKinley. Down to the lower left, you saw the shooter with the automatic Glock. That's him in the lower part of the photo. So you see in this video.
Man, look at this. Look at this shot. Y'all see how they're shooting? Man, these guys are so untrained. Look at this guy right here. I wish I could play it in slow motion. But you got this guy shooting in the direction of the guy that he's with. I'm surprised he didn't get hit. So untrained, so uncoordinated.
So you see,
I mean, he's firing right at him. These shots missed, he could have been done.
In this video, Xavier Edwards desperately trying to get them out of harm's way. But what he didn't know was that up on the top of that screen between
driver got lucky.
Mercedes and that yellow car was the third shooter. So what he ended up doing was driving and you'll see it come to fruition here, directly into a vortex of high-powered rifle fire.
Yeah.
Now, what you're also going to find in the evidence, and you can see the electrical charging station up here in the upper right, this is the edge of a Tesla that's sitting at another charger. That Tesla has its, I believe it's called Centurion function on, and it is recording from multiple cameras around the car. And this is one of the recordings. You'll see several in the evidence. That picks up the third shooter running down behind that row of cars and taking up position by that yellow car. He is the shooter on the other side of the street that forms that deadly vortex of fire as the charger goes by. And as the charger, you will see in the evidence, runs down the side trying to escape down the side of the hotel, this shooter comes running up to this position by the charging station and is opening up fire down the west side facing north of the home to suites.
Dang, so sad, man.
That is the headlights of the Charger fleeing up the west side of the hotel, heading north. The third shooter.
Yeah.
That's the Charger at the impound lot at the Tampa Police Department. You can see the impacts. Every one of those yellow stickers on the hood, the side, and the windshield are all impacts.
20-something plus shots.
That's the Altima that Camilla Bentley was sitting in. It took 2 rounds to the back window. This is Xavier Edwards, who was the driver of the Charger. That's him at the hospital. Gino Norris, Mr. Jones' friend, who was in the back seat. He was shot in the upper right arm. And Camilla Bentley, who was shot in the upper arm. These were the other partygoers. Armani Turner is Mr. Jones' girlfriend at the time. Ms. Randolph, her friend. Robert Howard is an associate friend of Mr. Jones, who was in the car behind the Charger, which was a Hyundai.
Let's hear about
Tafa
Alicia.
McCrae and Aaliyah were the ones in the Altima. You could see in that video
Where's Alicia Andrews
that these gunmen acted with suddenness, they acted with speed and fury. And they brought overwhelming firepower. Not one shooter, not 2 shooters, but 3 to create that vortex that the evidence proves to you, with high-powered AR-style rifles and a fully automatic Glock 19, bringing all of that firepower to bear in a concentrated area easily and rapidly, establishing not fire superiority, but fire supremacy, the evidence will show. Firing, as you saw in that last photo from the Tesla video, with absolute impunity and disregard of anyone that may be in that area. The majority of that fire you will find in this case was funneled directly into the passenger compartment of the Dodge Charger. And every single one of the rounds that were fired that night, every single one of them was dripping with the hatred, the malice, and the premeditated intent of all 5 of those conspirators. The evidence will prove to you.
What about Alicia, though? I haven't heard anything yet about Alicia Andrews.
Mr. Jones attempted to evade the gunfire.
I'll be patient.
He was leaning up against the dashboard. You may have seen in that photo, on those videos, but you'll see it during the trial. Look for it. His feet are up on the dashboard. He's leaning back. He's on his phone. The evidence will show trying to find a hotel, trying to find lodging for them. He barely has time to pull his feet down. The evidence will show he attempted to jump into the back seat, to go through and across the center console. Before he could do that, one of these rounds smashed into his chest, and that round tore through his heart, through his lungs, and through the largest vein in the body, the aorta, a gigantic artery that supplies blood up and down your body.
He was done.
And when he turned and kind of flipped over to try to crawl into the back seat, he took 2 more rounds to his back. Those rounds ripping through not only the muscles of his back, but into his liver.
Sheesh, man.
These shooters, as you've just seen, leveraged surprise. They leveraged it in this attack to make sure that Mr. Jones didn't stand a chance, to make sure he couldn't evade this attack. Not this time. This time he was going to be killed.
I mean, they did it.
They took full advantage of this ambush that they had planned. And you saw in that evidence the determination of these shooters, the assault team in this conspiracy. They didn't stop firing when the Charger went through that vortex. They kept firing all the way up the side of the hotel as the Dodge Charger fled, almost a block away. That last shooter you saw in the Tesla video, opening up fire, rapid fire. And as I said, firing with impunity. This was a perfect ambush spot because Mr. Jones' car was stuck. He couldn't go backwards because his girlfriend's Hyundai was behind him. To the left was a parked car next to the beams of the portico. On the other side was the hotel. A hotel. And on the other side of the wall in the glass of that hotel was high-density humanity. That didn't stop these killers. That didn't give them any pause for concern. You're going to see in the evidence impacts around that portico, numerous windows that are blown out in the front of that hotel. And not only in the lobby and in the front of the hotel, up and down the west side of that hotel, impacts. Impacts through windows that coursed through hotel rooms where people were sleeping, families. That hotel was packed with people. Parents there with their student children that were there for orientation at USF. People were there with their small children here in Tampa sightseeing. This overwhelming firepower and violence of action had an effect of confusion. Now, it wasn't confusing to the killers because they slipped away into the darkness. They were gone almost immediately. But it had that effect on the victims. Gino?
Jeez, man.
And Xavier. When that
lit
Charger
up.
finally comes to a halt, bullet-riddled, they realize that Charles Jones is gone. And they also realize that they both have been impacted. They have both suffered gunshot wounds. They flee out of that Charger, and they flee immediately to the west into the Holiday Inn because now they don't know where these killers are. They don't know if they're there or not. So they flee and they run into the hotel. And you're going to see in the evidence, their flight leaves a thick blood trail and a very obvious blood trail. They run in, they get on an elevator, they go to the 3rd floor. When law enforcement respond, and I'll talk to you a little bit about that, the confusion was caused, they go to the area where the Charger is. They see the blood trail. They don't know if that's victims. They don't know if that's shooters. They go into the hotel thinking that they're going to be coming face to face with shooters. They go up the elevator, and they go onto the 3rd floor, and they find Mr. Edwards and Mr. Norris laying on the ground, bleeding. Camilla Bentley, you saw in the panic between her car, or the car she was driving, the Altima, and Miss Turner's Hyundai. One's backing up and one's going forward, and they collide going out onto McKinley. Camilla Bentley drives off, but then she turns around shortly thereafter and comes back and picks up Taifa and Aaliyah, who are inside of the hotel lobby. They then drive nearby to Advent Health, where Camilla is treated for her gunshot wound. Meanwhile, Armani Turner, the victim's girlfriend in the Hyundai, she ends up somehow on Fowler going eastbound and comes across a traffic stop being conducted by the University of South Florida Police Department, just a traffic stop. She pulls up, and her and Mr. Howard get out, and they make contact with the police, who are having a hard time understanding them because they were so frantic and so upset. So they follow them. They try to follow them. They actually lose sight of them because she's traveling so fast. Meanwhile, Tampa Police Department are responding to multiple 911 calls of shooting at the hotel. An officer responding sees Miss Turner driving. She drives through the intersection of Fowler and McKinley, goes right over the landscaping and into the parking lot. He follows her, not knowing who she is or what her part of this is, and they end up making contact with her. Officers end up driving down to the south end because it's brought to their attention that there are impacts and broken glass all over the south end of the home to suites where the shooting actually happened or began.
He's laying it all out.
The first officer who gets there comes into the scene, and he notices all of these 9mm pistol casings laying in the scene. And he's looking at the impacts, and he's already seen the charger. And he's wondering, where are the rifle casings? Where are they? Well, you're going to hear in this evidence there were no rifle casings, even though 2 rifles were firing at a high cyclical rate in this attack. They weren't there because these conspirators modified their rifles. They put what are called brass catchers on the rifles to catch the brass, the shell casings being ejected from these AR-style rifles. They modified them, just like they modified that Glock pistol and made it fully automatic.
They have the switch. Can't do that.
That was confusing. That was beguiling the law enforcement, at least in the beginning, until they started obtaining the video that you've just seen.
ATF said, oh, they do. Huh? They said, what happened? Oh, no, we're not doing that.
So how does this conspiracy unfold? How does all of this start? It starts with Charles Jones, Julio Foolio. You see his name on the top of this post on IG, putting out on his IG account this advertisement for June 22nd, which was a Saturday. The murders had happened in the early morning hours of the 23rd, going into Sunday morning. And you see Mr. Jones in the middle, advertising he's going to be appearing, Julio Foolio, at Teasers on North Nebraska in Tampa, hosted by Kenny Kay. And he puts at the bottom, my Airbnb pool party, June 21st. And that's when he arrived here. He and partygoers arrived here that Friday. They had rented an Airbnb in Holiday in Pasco County. And they ended up on Saturday night leaving the Airbnb because he had started sending out, telling people, send me messages and I'll message you back with the address. And so many people appeared that eventually the owner of the Airbnb pulled the plug and told them to get out.
Yep.
But you see down here at the bottom, my official birthday party, June 22nd at Club Teasers, and gives the address. So he is making it very well known when he puts this promotion out, where he's going to be, what address he's going to be at, and when he's going to be there.
Which is dumb.
This is another flyer that he put up. 8 p.m. to 3 a.m., June 22nd at Teasers. He even puts a photograph here of Tampa. My Airbnb pool party. DM me for address. And my official birthday party at Club Teasers gives the address again. So he's advertising his whereabouts. He's advertising his whereabouts. Now, Ms. Andrews, the defendant, sitting right over here at counsel's table.
Here we go.
This is a message that she sends, and you see on the top there, oh, that's red. That is her Instagram account. You will find that. You can see on the top right her registered email to that account, verified AliciaAndrews72@yahoo.com.
We're going to take a minute here and we're going to get into Alicia's involvement because they're going to get into great detail about how she was involved. We're going to see the text message and everything. I want to know what y'all think about this so far in the comments and in the chat. Was this all just some crazy get back scheme? Was it planned out for a long time? I mean, was Alicia actually involved in this, or was she just a bystander? Because there was a lot of other people who were included in this as well. Let me know.